welcome back to English class. Today we are going to continue our previous chapter, and the chapter name is Landscape of the Soul. It is written by Nathaniel Troy. In previous class I taught you about a very famous painter Wu Daozi, a very famous Chinese painter, how he vanished along with his painting that we came to know in last class. I also told you the story associated with the Wu Daozi. So the story was really very interesting. Alright, so these kinds of stories plays a very important role in Chinese classical education. In China's classical education, that means education based on old values. Today we will continue this chapter and we will start the second para, which is given on page number 44. Let's start. Such stories played an important part in China's classical education. The books of the Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of them. They help the master to guide his disciple in the right direction. Beyond the anecdote, they are deeply revealing of the spirit in which art was considered. Contrast this story or another famous one about a painter who wouldn't draw the eye of the dragon he had painted for fear it would fly out of the painting, with an old story from my native Flanders that I find most representative of Western painting. Like in the previous class, I gave you a story related with a famous Chinese painter named Wu Daozi. So in this second para, the narrator wants to let you know that these kinds of interesting story played an important part in Chinese classical education. That means these kinds of interesting short story plays very important role in imparting the value-based education, and moreover the books of the Confucius and the Zhuangzi are full of them. Like Confucius and Zhuangzi are two Chinese philosophers, two great Chinese philosophers. If you see the book of this great philosopher, you will find their books are full of these kinds of interesting short stories. Why? Because these kinds of stories help the master to guide his disciple in the right direction. Moreover, beyond the interesting story, they are deeply revealing the spirit in which art was considered. These kinds of interesting stories plays a very important role in China's classical education, because these paintings or these stories help the master painter to guide his disciple in the proper direction. It also helps them to understand the perceptions of the painter, the beauty of the painting and the perception. That means in which spirit the art was made. Okay, so these kinds of short interesting stories are very, very important in order to impart the China's classical education. Contrast this story or another famous one about a painter who wouldn't draw the eye of dragon he had painted. In this para, the author is talking about another interesting story, which is the story of Flanders. It is a story about a European painter. A European painter who was very famous painter, and he did not want to draw the eye of the dragon. Dragon means what? Serpent. A huge serpent. Right. Dragon means what? A huge serpent. So the famous European painter did not want to draw the eye of this dragon because he had fear that if we draw the eye of the dragon will so live that it will fly away. The dragon will fly out from the painting, out of the painting, and because of this fear, he didn't want to draw the eyes of the dragon. So this was also very much interesting. So you can understand here in the first story, what is the motto, what is the perception of the painter, Wu Daozi. The main motto or the main perception of the Chinese painter in the previous story, Wu Daozi, was only what? The Chinese art or the Chinese painting is some inner thing, like it is some kind of what? Abstract in nature. That is, it deals in what? Inner beauty, because the king only, the emperor only appreciated the outer beauty, but it was the Wu Daozi who highlighted, who tried to show the inner beauty which was inside the cave. But in this next story, what you got? In this European painter's story, when he denied to draw the eyes of the dragon, it reveals what? The likeness, the exactness. So we can say that the motto of the European paintings, the motto of European painters is to copy the exact thing, to make something very much realistic. Alright. So this was the motto behind this two story. Now let's read the next story is given here in third para. In 15th century, Antwerp, a master blacksmith called Quentin Masses fell in love with a painter's daughter. The father would not accept a son-in-law in such a profession, so Quentin slipped into the painter's studio and painted a fly on his lattice panel with such a delicate realism that the master tried to swat it away before he realized what had happened. Quentin was immediately admitted as an apprentice into his studio. He married his beloved and went on to become one of the most famous painters of his age. These two stories illustrate what each form of art is trying to achieve. A perfect illusionistic likeness in Europe, the essence of inner life and spirit in Asia. So, I will let you know, I will explain the story given in this para. At first, let me tell you the difficult words and their meaning in this para. So, difficult word is given here what? Snake. What is the meaning of snake? Snake means what? And third, secretly. To enter somewhere secretly or silently or without anyone's notice. Alright. Now the next difficult word is given here what? Swat it away. Swat it away means what? Swat. Hit something. Hit smartly. To kill. Try to remove something. Try to kill something. That means what? Swat. There is one more difficult word is what? Apprentice. Apprentice. Apprentice means what? Training. Train. It is training. So apprentice means what? Training. So let's try to understand the story given in this para. That is third para. In the 15th century, Antwerp, a master blacksmith called Quentin Massys. So this is the story of 15th century when there was an artist, but his profession was to make what the tools of iron. So he was a master blacksmith. You know who is the blacksmith? Blacksmith means what? A person who makes tools from the iron. They are known as what? Blacksmith. So Antwerp was a very famous blacksmith. He was called Quentin Massys. So Quentin Massys falls in love with a master painter's daughter. The master father, couldn't accept a son-in-law in such a profession, but the master painter did not accept blacksmith as his son-in-law. He was against of his love, and Quentin Massys wanted to get married to the daughter of the master's painter, but the master painter was not ready for this relationship. What happened? So the Quentin sneaked into the painter's studio and painted a fly on his latest panel with such a delicate realism that the master tried to swat it away before he realized what had happened. He knew, the master blacksmith, he knew that his would-be father-in-law will not be ready to accept him as a blacksmith. He was denied because he was a blacksmith. But the blacksmith, Quentin Massys, did not lose his heart, and he decided something. He wanted to get his beloved at any cost. So one day he silently, secretly entered into the studio of his would-be father-in-law, that is his beloved's father's studio, and he just painted a fly on the latest canvas. There was a blank place on the canvas on which we draw the painting. So he just entered into his would-be father-in-law's studio and he just painted a fly on it. And you know, the fly was so realistic, like he painted the fly with so realism that it was very difficult to decide, to find that whether the fly was made or it is the real one. That means he painted the fly so beautifully that even the master painter, that means his beloved father, couldn't identify the fly is real or artificial. When he entered into his studio, he saw that fly and he just tried to swat it away. Swat it away means what? To hit smartly to something in order to kill. So when he saw that fly, he just tried to remove it with something. But the next moment, when the fly didn't move anywhere, that moment the master painter realized that it is not the real fly, but it is the painting. It is the beautiful, realistic painting. He became very much impressed, and this was only the motto of the blacksmith. He wanted to father-in-law because he wanted to get married his beloved. Finally, his would-be father-in-law, that is master painter, became ready to give his daughter's hand in the hand of what? Master blacksmith. And not only he accepted this relationship, not only he accepted him as a son-in-law, also he decided to make the master blacksmith as a trainee in his studio. He decided to give him some training in his studio because he became very much impressed because of his painting, which was so realistic. Alright, so what happened? These two stories illustrate, and what happened? Very soon the master blacksmith became one of the famous painter of his age. In this way, he got permission from his father-in-law to get married his beloved. These two stories illustrate what each form of art is trying to achieve. A perfect idealistic likeness in Europe and the essence of inner life and the spirit in Asia. Like Asian painting reflects what a Chinese painting. So after reading these stories, this interesting story, what you got it? You can easily understand that the motto or the main perspective of the European painting is to represent what they are realistic thing. They just want to copy the exact thing. Their motto is only to draw the exact thing. Alright, but so you can see the shadow of realism in the European painting, but in the Chinese painting, the motto of the Chinese painting is what? To reflect the essence of inner life and spirit in the Chinese painting. So this was the difference between the perception of the European painters as well as what? Between the European painters and what? The Chinese painters. Like the perception of the Chinese painter have different, and the perception of the European painters are different. Alright, so this was only the motto to convey behind this story. Now, let's read the next panel. In the Chinese story, the emperor commissions a painting and appreciates its outer appearance, but artist reveals to him the true meaning of his work. Reveals means what? Hidden thing, like to show the hidden things. Reveals means to bring the facts. But the artist reveals to him the true meaning of his work. The emperor may rule over the territory he has conquered, but only the artist knows the way within it. Let me show the way, the Tao. A word that means both the path or the method and the mysterious work of the universe. The painting is gone, but the artist has reached his goal beyond any material appearance. So, in the fourth para, the narrator is talking about the first story where Wu Daozi was given an order by an emperor. The name of emperor was, he was the Tang Emperor Xuanzong. So as you know that in the first story, a Tang Emperor Xuanzong gave an order to the master Chinese painter Wu Daozi to decorate a palace wall, and when the painter completed, the famous painter, Chinese painter Wu Daozi completed his work, then his work was appreciated by the emperor, by Tang Emperor But he appreciated only the outer appearance. He appreciated only the outer beauty, what he was able to see. But further, the artist reveals to him the true meaning of his work. He just showed him the hidden beauty of his painting by pointing out the emperor towards the bottom of the mountain. He just wanted to convey the beauty which was inside the cave. He wanted to show the emperor the inner beauty, the essence of his painting which was inside the cave. In this way, the emperor made, in this way, he just conveyed, he just reflected the meaning, whatever, he just reflected his perception, whatever he wanted to convey to the emperor, he just conveyed, he gave his message and he just vanished. He just disappeared, including his painted wall. Now further, there is written one line, like the emperor may rule over the territory he has conquered. Conquered means what? To win. But only to overcome, to win. Only the artist knows the way within. Let me show the way, the Tao. A word that means both the path or the method and the mysterious work of the universe. The painting is gone, but the artist has reached its goal beyond any material appearance. Through this line, like the emperor may rule over the territory he has conquered, like it is fact that the emperor may know more about his territory, whatever he has overcome, whatever he has won his territory, it is possible. Yeah, it is very natural that he will have a great power. He will be very much powerful in his kingdom, in his territory, which he has overcome. But, like through this line, the narrator wants to convey you that the emperor who rules over the territory he has conquered, like after winning the particular area, he can rule on that particular territory. But it is the painter who knows much about the inner beauty of that territory. That means the true meaning of that territory can be felt in far better way by the painter. Like a king can know only about his territory, he can rule on that particular territory, he can be powerful in that territory, but he could not understand the inner beauty, he could not understand the minute things about his territory. But a painter knows everything. He knows the beauty of every small things. So this was the motto that the painter wanted to achieve. Through the story, the painter, Chinese painter as well as the European painter reflected their perspective. Now there is given, let me show the way, the Tao, a word that means both the path or the method and the mysterious work of the universe. The painting is gone, but the artist has reached his goal. So whatever the artist wanted to achieve, he has already achieved. And here, the word have three meaning, like the way, the Tao. The word Tao has here three meanings. The first one is what? Path, and the second one is method, and the third one is what? Mysterious work of the universe. So This was all about today's class. In next class, I will continue this chapter and I will teach you fifth para. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Please take care of yourself.